Hello everyone, Xanaro Gaming coming at y'all with another video, and yes, we are once again doing another deck profile video for the Black Clover set that is soon coming out to us this weekend for pre-release events at your local game stores. And in this video, we are going to be touching on the red cards. We've already done both of the green decks I think that are viable decks to build from this set. Be sure to check those videos out. We did the green captains and then the green 3-cost rush deck, and then I also did my favorite deck, which is going to be the 3 ladies in red event deck. Check those out on the channel, please do that. And we are on to the last red deck. This is going to be the red black bulls. I don't have a cool name for this one yet. Maybe the blaze of the black bulls, I don't know, I'll figure out one. At the moment I'm just calling it the red black bulls deck. This is going to be the deck that is going to have a lot of the cards from the starter deck, so this is probably going to be one of the main decks that people are playing from this set, and I think that it is definitely one of the more hyped decks because these Astas are really cool. One main thing to note about this deck is that there's a lot of different ways you can play this deck. There is a lot of tools to where you can really, use whatever Black Bull characters are your favorite, and then, build a deck around them. I really do believe that you don't have to focus on Astas and knots and the core like I'm doing here. You can go more of the package if you like him more, and then some of the other Black Bulls like the double attacker is really strong too. So there is a lot of different ways, I think, for everyone who's a fan of the show and these characters in the show to build a deck that suits them. I'm just using more of what I think is a solid build, bringing in all of these cards, but one noticeable thing that is not in this deck is going to be the because the is a color trigger, and I think they put this deck in an interesting spot because being the color trigger kind of, is at like a head, like you're pulling on two ends wanting to play this Liebe in the deck, which is the color trigger, and then wanting to run that which is a pretty expensive 5-cost 2-action point card that come down and does some cool things for your Astas. But I think that if you're trying to focus on Asta decks, then having this Liebe is really important to just be able to see the Asta. So I definitely focus more on Asta and the knot package with the Liebe, so that is what this profile is going to go over. Going to touch on the events and sites, mix it up a little bit in this one. You can see we have 44 triggers, so a very consistent deck for red. We do have our 4 final triggers, which is My Magic is Never Giving Up our boy Asta. This is the final trigger, 3 energy, 1 action point. And then we have our Demon Slayer Sword, which is our special trigger in life, costs you 4 energy. You get to choose one character with 3,000 less BP on your opponent's front line and sideline it. If Asta's on your field, you have plenty of Astas, 5,000 or less BP instead. One thing to note, Liebe is not Asta. You can just use it as Asta with Raid. You can perform on top of it, right? So it's not an Asta card, but your Asta cards with Raid can raid on top of the Liebe. So you cannot have a Liebe out and then activate the Demon Slayer Sword and get it off. I just wanted to go over the events first and foremost so that way people saw this interaction. I told you about it and you don't misplay in your games. But since we're on them first, going out of order a little bit here, we do run, I think, just one copy of this emergency meeting. I do think that this is an interesting card, but I don't think you want to see more than one of it because it is a little interesting. It is emergency meeting. It's the Black Bulls at their table. 2 energy, 1 action point. It is a get trigger to your hand, and it does generate you 1 energy for a site, which is cool, right? But the effect says activate main, switch to resting, and then sideline this card. You really don't want to have to sideline it, but it does come with a very powerful effect. You get to add up to 2 red characters with 3 or less required energy from your sideline to your hand. So I do think that in a pinch later in the game, if you're trying to outbuy your opponent, this card may come up, and I do think that it is a good card. Maybe once I get to do a little bit more deck testing, I can maybe try to find a spot for another one of these cards. But we do want to run a lot of double energy generators because we run a lot of 5-cost. So, going on to the top dog himself, I am running 2 of the 5 energy, 1 action point Yami of the Black Bulls. He is 4,000 BP. He generates you 1 energy. He is an after trigger, which is really cool. I do wish that he had been a get trigger though. And he says, when played, you may place 1 face down card under a character on your field into your sideline. If you do, draw a card. So this deck is going to take a lot of cards from your deck and put them face down underneath your characters. That is the whole kind of gimmick of the deck. And you try to get values off of them and then also keep your Astas with fuel, trying to fuel the demon inside of him. But when attacking, choose up to 1 character on your field with Black Bull affinities and place the top card of your deck face down under it. This Yami is very, very important for the deck later in the game to help you keep fueling, you know, cards underneath your other cards to get value. But he is 5 energy, and I think that that's why playing it at only a 2 of is okay, because you do want to see it later in the game, but you do not want multiples in your hand early in the game, because it is going to become a problem, making it a little clunky. I do think that if this Yami had just been a 4 cost, he would have been suited a little bit better in the deck to take more of a shining, but still at 2 copies, it is going to be a really, really good card. Going to our 5 energy, 1 action point Asta here. This card is so strong for sure. 5 energy, 1 action point Asta, 4000 BP, 1 energy generator. It just says raid on top of Asta. It's a raid trigger in life. And it says if on the front line at the start of your turn, place the top card from this rated character into your sideline. If this character has a face down card under it, place 1 face down card under this character into your sideline instead. So you're having to fuel this Asta to keep it on board in its rated form, which is not always a bad thing, because sometimes you don't mind letting this Asta leave, so that way you can raid it on top. You know, use another raid Asta on top of it. So that's why we're maxing out on these Asta raids. And it says, when played, choose up to 1 character, 4000 less BP on your opponent's front line, and sideline it. That is such a good effect. It's another special trigger essentially in your deck. When you raid this from your life, when you raid it on your turn, you're popping something that's 4000 or less. And this card is what makes this deck so amazing and so strong. It does come with the price that you do have to pay that, you know, card from underneath it every turn. But that is so good. It's not bouncing it to the hand. It's not tapping it down. It's not doing any of this stuff. It's sidelining it, which is so good. And this is definitely the star of the deck, big time. Now, it is an Asta deck, so we do run another 4 of Raid Asta, and this is the one from the starter deck. 4 energy, 1 action point Asta, 4000 BP, generation 1 energy, and it says, when played, place the top card of your deck face down under this character. Choose up to 1 character on your opponent's front line. It loses all base abilities until the start of your next turn. Now, this means anything that is on that card goes away. Yes, this means impact. Everything that's on the card, it loses everything if it was the base effect of the card. But if another character gives a card in effect that says, like, you can't block this character, you know, with 2500 less BP or whatever, like the Kogia stuff, it does not stop those things, because it only stops the base card, not the added effects that other characters give it, right? So be very careful about how you're playing this card. You really need to choose your priority targets the right way. But this is also such a really powerful effect, right? Just choosing one of their characters. I think that this deck will help a lot of people feel a lot better about a lot of these Saitama cards, because now they're going to lose all that impact and damage on their bodies, and that really helps put this deck in a good spot, being a low to the ground. And I do think that this is going to be a welcome card to the metagame, helping out with some of those troublesome bodies that we can't mess with, right? That is going to be really effective too, because now if they swing in on their following turns with the Saitamas and they hit a special trigger, now their Saitama will be killed. When attacking once per turn, you may place 1 face down card under this character into your sideline. If you do, this character gains impact 1, which is really good. Just being able to have an impact body coming on the board every turn. So strong, really good, having a 4K with impact, right? And it's just once per turn, so like you can keep giving this character, you keep fueling the demon with all your other characters to give him stuff. So almost every turn you can keep getting this impact on a 4K body that early in the game, and it is so strong, right? Really good card. The main reason that this emergency meeting, like I said, isn't as amazing is because this Asta and this Asta are both 4 and 5 costs, whereas this emergency meeting only lets you get back your 3 energy, which is a little troublesome and it seems a little clunky. I would have rather this card had cost 3 and then let us get any 4 or lower, but you know, it's still an okay card. Now, going to 3 of the not Foss, this card is really good for the deck, but I do think that, you know, putting at a 4 of may be too much, but we will see, because it really is such a powerful card. Let's get into it. 4 energy, 2 action point to play it, 4000 BP, 1 energy generator for red, and it is a get trigger in hand, which is why I don't feel bad playing it at a 3 of, because we should see it. You get to play this character active onto your field, which is awesome, and then it says when played, draw a card, and then also when attacking, choose up to 1 Asta or Liebe card on your field. It gains 1000 BP until the end of the turn. Place the top card of your deck face down under the chosen character. This knot is so good. This card is so good. I was almost wanting to go down on the Yami, go into 1 to put a Nos at 4, but I do feel like that double energy might come up, or the double action point, and it might be a little cloggy in your hand. But this guy is amazing. He replaces himself with a card draw, and then he comes in active, and then when he swings, you boost one of your Astas up, and you give it another source to fuel its abilities. Definitely one of the most important cards of the deck, and I know that I'm not running it out of 3 of in this list, but we will see how important it is. And if there is one card that I'm thinking maybe knocked up to 4, it is definitely this Not. But you do need to worry about energy in this deck, so I did forego playing him at a 4 of, so that way I could play this at a 4 of, because our Asta does cost 5, and we don't want to be in situations where we're stuck not playing out the Asta or the Yami. 2 really important cards for the deck. And then, double energy generators are great because they help you keep lower space down below. If you have to use less cards to generate energy, now you can be more aggressive, which is what I think this deck wants to do. But get into this, it's a 3 energy, 1 action point, 3000 BP. It is your double energy generator, so you want to play this on the back line, and it is a draw trigger in life. Really good card that is going to help, if you need to put a, 3k body out to it, he's not bad. He's really not bad at all. Really good card. Only playing 2 of the Noel. I do think that this is a really important card in the deck too, but instead of, putting 4 Yamis, and I decided to do a 2-2 split between the Yami and the Noel, because the Yami is, your active gain and other energy cards, and then the Noel generates you 2 energy, but comes with a little bit more value, which is why she costs 3 energy, 1 action point. She's 3000 plus BP. Double energy generator is an active trigger in life. She gives you step. And then also activate main, place 1 card from your hand into the sideline. Once per turn, this character gains 1000 BP until the end of the turn. So she is a way for you to boost the board, play out a body if you need to, put some pressure on your opponent. But regardless, she is also the double energy generator, which is really, really important. But just 2 of her, 2 of the Yami active energy. One of the cards I was really torn on, only playing 2 of, is this gray, because initially when I looked through the set, I was like, oh, this card is busted. It's got to be so strong because of what it does. 2 energy, 1 action point, 2000 BP, generation 1 energy. It is a draw trigger, and it says activate main, switch to resting, place 1 card from your hand into the sideline. Then you have to sideline this card, which is a little unfortunate. Play up to 1 red character with 3 or less required energy, 1 AP cost, and black bull affinity from your hand set to active onto your field, and it gains 1000 BP. So really, really good here because you can play out any of these black bull 3 costs or less characters. It could be the Asta, it could be anything that has the black bull, not the Mimosa, to know, and the but essentially everything else here in lower. You can play them out, and then she's going to boost them, which is not bad because this is a setup play. It's going to generate you energy, but I think it is a good way to really push for game. You're going to have this gray on the back line as one of your energy generators, and then later in the game when you're trying to push for game, you trash a card, sideline her to play one of your other, Red Bull cards, and then boost it by 1000. And if you end up boosting, this Asta, that's a 35, the Yami, that's a 35, the Noel's a 4, and then you can use her effect to trash a card to gain another 1000. It is a very versatile card, and I do think it is a central card in the deck, but the fact that you have to switch her to resting and then also sideline them makes it a pretty high cost, right? It would be a little bit better if you didn't have to switch it to resting. You could just sideline this card and trash one, then that way you could use the effect to turn you play it, but it is a little bit more of a setup. Going on to our other 2 energy, 1 action point cards, we do run a Liebe, which is our devil. 3000 BP, and it generates you 1 energy. This is the color trigger in the deck. I do think that red color trigger is still good. I know a lot of people joke and say it's the worst one in the game, but red color triggers help thwart your opponent when they're aggressive to you. And I think at the moment we are in a lot of, really aggro decks, and I think that just makes the red color trigger even better when they hit it, because these aggro decks are trying to hit you and there's almost always something small. I have seen red color triggers be a lot more prominent in affecting games than they used to be, so don't pick on the red color trigger too much. Is it still probably the worst one? Maybe, but it is still really good when it happens. But the effect on this card says your Asta cards with raid can perform raid on this character, and it says when played, draw a card, then place 1 card from your hand face down under this character. This card is so strong and busted for the deck because you get to fuel your Astas with your other characters, and then this guy also does it. You play this down, and then you can raid on top of it with an Asta to get another card that puts you 2 sources alone just from this Liebe effect, which is so good. And it just feels itself because you draw a card, then place it, right? It didn't just say when played, place it. You draw a card, then place one underneath this character, so you just fill your hand. This is the best card in the deck. It really is one of the main cards you want to, you know, see in your starting hand, so that way you can play it out, and it fuels your Astas to really push the state of the game. I can't speak highly enough of this card, and it's also a 3000 BP stat line. What more do you want out of a card? It's so strong. It really is just the most important card, and that's why I think the Unos had to go, because when I was looking at it, I was like, this Liebe is so essential in the deck, and even though the Uno does a lot for the deck later in the game, this deck wants to probably be a little bit more lower to the ground than what that Uno is offering, but the Uno is a really strong card. Going down the line, only because we need to run a 1 energy drop Asta, we are running 2 of this Asta. It is 1 energy, 1 action point, 2500 BP, generates you 1 energy, and it has step. This is going to be your early aggressive card. We're only running it at a 2 of because we have 4 of the Libes. We have the 4 energy Asta here. And then, you know, I do think this probably is a little low. Maybe we could go down on the Uno and something else, maybe one of the grays. But this Asta is going to be the one that you play out early to aggro and then step it back for the energy and then raid into it later. But I do feel like 10 targets for 8 raids is not bad, because a lot of times you're going to be placing cards from the top of your deck underneath, so you're going to be losing value there, not seeing some of these cards, but you never feel bad later in the game. Say you do run out of Astas and you have to hard play one, isn't the worst, you know, thing in the world. But this Asta doesn't have a trigger, right? And I'm trying to keep the triggers high, and we're at 44, which is solid, but he doesn't have a get or a drog or anything like that. But this is going to be your early aggressive Asta. Running it at a 2 of. We are running 2 of the Mimosa. This is just, I do think that these cards help curve out decks. If you choose to not play this and run the Astas, I think you could manage that, but then you're really putting yourself in a tough spot to make sure you find one of these 3 cards to get that 5 energy on board. And I think that the Mimosa just helps you do that early, just bouncing, you know, the 1 cost back to the hand. The 1 cost or less back to the hand to get the double energy on the board. We are running 2 of the Luck. It's a 0 energy, 1 action point, 2000 BP, 1 energy generator, and it is an active trigger. A really good card. Just the other 0 I'm choosing to run in the deck. You could choose to run a different one if you wanted to, but I do think that this Noel is so important to the deck. 0 energy, 1 action point, 1500 BP, 1 energy generator. It is a draw trigger in life, and when played, draw 1, trash 1. Such a, you know, good card, consistency card for decks, because you're playing it, drawing, trashing, fixing your hand, and then if you really need to, you can bounce it back to your hand with Mimosa to play the card back out again and cycle it. That is the plays that I like to do them a lot in a lot of my decks, is run the bouncers with the draw and trash 1 cards, and I think it helps add a lot of consistency to your deck builds. And if you don't add these cards to your deck, I think you should maybe try it out. If you're looking for, you know, a consistency package in any of your decks, I do think that these cards help a lot to make decks a little bit more consistent. I don't think that my Kurapika deck, y'all all know that that is my favorite deck in the game. It would not be as consistent without this bounce and then the Zepile, who is the draw 1 trash 1 in that deck. I do think that these cards are really, really important to make decks consistent that lack it otherwise. And the last card in the deck is 4 of your 0 energy, 1 action point Astas. It is our get trigger, 1500 BP, 1 energy generator. This does look to be one of the like more interesting styles. Like this, like putting cards face down underneath your cards is very interesting and different, and it is very aggressive. You know, really pushing the pace of the game on your opponent with all of these really strong Asta effects, which are just really, really good. And you just have to keep feeding the demon inside of him with these other cards that give him value. The Yami, the Knot, the Liebe, all these other cards, putting cards underneath him are really good. Now, there are other cards that also do that, but I think that there is a fine line between running good cards like this Yami that generate you the double energy, outside of some of those cards that do help fuel stacking your characters, because you really want these Astas to shine. But with that being said, I do think that this will probably be the strongest deck from the set. I think this one will be pushing it. I think this will definitely be the most played one for sure. It does look to be really, really powerful. I think that this Asta just sidelining a 4K or less is so impactful. It's going to curve so many games when it happens in life. Can you imagine swinging in, hitting an Asta, sideline a character, hitting a special, sideline a character? That is going to be insane removal in a single deck to have. But let me know how excited y'all are for this deck. I do think that it is the most hyped deck coming from the set. I'm really looking forward to building it for my brother and having him play it. Asta is his favorite character, obviously the main character. He likes Xiaomi a lot too, so I threw some of those in here. But I do think that this is a solid deck for you guys to go off of. But let me know what y'all think in the comments below. What of these decks from Black Clover are you most excited to build? And don't forget to do that survey I posted to the channel and in a lot of the servers, because I want to hear what people have to say about, you know, what the correlation of what the most popular decks are as to how often they perform well in tournaments. But please leave me feedback in these videos too. This is a really busy week. I'm trying to get all 6 of the different decks you build from this set out. I'm trying to do the tournament videos to show you guys, like, you know, what people have been playing in the game at the moment lately. But please look out for the next deck profile video. I'll get it out to you guys as soon as possible. And I appreciate everyone hanging out with me today. I appreciate it. Peace.